You haven't replied to that text message in 3 weeks. You saw it come in. You read the preview. You even mentally drafted a response, but you just couldn't open it. And now enough time has passed that replying feels awkward, so you have decided to just let the friendship fade away quietly. Does this sound familiar? Maybe it's the relief you feel when plans get canceled. You made those plans. You were excited about them on Monday. But by Friday afternoon, you are secretly praying for rain, a minor emergency, or a sorry I can't make it text so you can stay home in your safe, quiet bubble. People are starting to talk. They call you distant. They call you cold. Maybe they have even labeled you as toxic or selfish. And the worst part is, late at night, you start to believe them. You look at your shrinking circle of friends and you wonder if you are slowly turning into a villain. You wonder if you have lost the ability to care. But before you diagnose yourself as a bad person, I need you to listen very closely. This is not a personality flaw. You are not cold, and you are certainly not broken. What you are experiencing is a sophisticated biological defense mechanism. In psychology, we don't call this being a jerk. We call it defensive detachment, or sometimes hyper-independence. Your brain isn't trying to isolate you to make you lonely. It is trying to isolate you to keep you safe. You see, for most people, connection is a source of fuel. But for you right now, connection feels like a bill you cannot afford to pay. And today we are going to decode exactly why that is. We are going to break down the 3 specific types of people who cut everyone off. The first 2 types are driven by pain. But the third type is going to surprise you because it reveals a hidden strength you didn't know you had. Let's dig into the architecture of your silence. We categorize this behavior into 3 distinct types, forming a funnel from the surface level down to the deep biological core. First, there is type 1. We call this the overwhelmed ghost. If you are type 1, you don't actually want to cut people off. In your mind, you are just pressing the pause button. You tell yourself, I am just too tired tonight, I will reply tomorrow morning. But tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into a month of silence. For you, every notification on your phone triggers a microdose of cortisol. It doesn't feel like an invitation to connect. It feels like a demand. It feels like a chore. You aren't avoiding the person. You are avoiding the energy cost of the interaction. Think of your brain like a web browser. Right now, you have 50 tabs open. One tab is work stress, another is financial worry, another is your own insecurities. When a friend texts you, hey, how are you? That requires opening a 51st tab. And your system simply does not have the RAM to handle it. So you crash. You ghost them not out of malice, but out of system failure. But why is your system so fragile? Why does a simple coffee date feel like climbing Mount Everest? That brings us to type 2. Type 2 is the bankrupt giver. This is the most common reason for sudden isolation in adulthood. You see, you didn't wake up one day deciding to hate everyone. In fact, if we look at your history, you were likely the opposite. You were the therapist friend. You were the one everyone called during a crisis. You were the low-maintenance child who never asked for anything but always gave everything. For years, you operated on a distinct unspoken contract. If I am good, if I am helpful, if I listen to everyone's problems, then I will be loved. You spent decades pouring your emotional currency into other people's accounts. But then the crash happened. Maybe you went through a hard time, a breakup, a job loss, a depression, and you looked around for support. And what did you find? Silence. The people you saved were too busy to save you. That moment broke something in you. Your brain realized that your relationships were a bad investment. You were paying a premium price for a product that didn't exist. So your subconscious mind did the only logical thing: it declared bankruptcy. It shut down the business. You stopped reaching out because you realized that if you stop rowing the boat just stops moving. You aren't cold. You are just on strike. You are tired of being the only one trying. Now we arrive at the bottom of the funnel. This is the part most psychology videos miss. If you survive the exhaustion of type 1 and the betrayal of type 2, you might evolve into type 3. We call type 3 the circuit breaker. This is the twist. Cutting people off is usually framed as a symptom of mental illness, like depression or avoidant attachment. But for type 3, cutting people off is actually a sign of mental health. Imagine your house has an electrical system. If you plug in a toaster, a microwave, a hairdryer, and a space heater all into one outlet, what happens? The circuit breaker trips. It cuts the power instantly. Is the circuit breaker bad? Is it antisocial? No. It is intelligent. It recognized a surge that was about to burn the house down, and it sacrificed the connection to save the structure. You are the circuit breaker. You have developed a heightened sensitivity to emotional voltage. In the past, you would have tolerated the friend who makes passive-aggressive jokes. You would have stayed in the relationship that felt like walking on eggshells. You would have endured the family gatherings where you were constantly criticized. You tolerated the high voltage because you thought that was the price of admission for love. But now, your sensors are upgraded. You can smell the smoke before the fire starts. When you meet someone new and they start trauma dumping on the first date, click, you cut them off. When a friend only calls you when they need a favor, click, power down. When you sense inconsistency, manipulation, or drama, click. Society looks at you and sees someone who is lonely and isolating. But you know the truth. You aren't isolating. You are preserving. You aren't building walls to keep people out. You are building a quarantine zone to keep the virus out. This isn't weakness. It is the ultimate form of self-respect. You have finally realized that your peace is more expensive than their company. You are no longer willing to set yourself on fire just to keep others warm. The silence you have created isn't empty. It is clean. It is the sound of a system that is finally running safely. So what is actually happening inside your biology when you go dark? Neuroscientifically, this is not a personality change. It is a shift in your autonomic nervous system. For years, you likely lived in a state of high alert, a fight or flight mode, constantly trying to please people, manage their emotions, and predict their needs. That is exhausting. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Eventually, your body says, enough. It switches from the sympathetic nervous system to the dorsal vagal state. This is the freeze response. It is a metabolic shutdown. Your body is forcing you into hibernation to repair the damage caused by years of overgiving. Think of it like a bear in winter. The bear isn't depressed. The bear isn't being rude to the forest. The bear is conserving energy because the environment has become too harsh to survive in. You are in your winter. You are insulating your core. So, if you are currently in a phase where you have cut everyone off, stop fighting it. Stop shaming yourself for it. Do not force yourself to go to that party. Do not force yourself to reply to that text immediately. Respect the hibernation. The goal isn't to stay in this cave forever. The goal is to rest here until you are strong enough to emerge again. But this time, when you do come out, you won't be the same person who walked in. You won't be the therapist friend or the people pleaser anymore. You will be someone who knows the difference between a connection that feeds you and a connection that eats you. You will realize that you didn't lose friends. You just realized who never really was one. Take your time. The right people will wait for the winter to pass, and the ones who don't, they were never there for you. They were only there for the warmth you provided. Welcome to your peace.